How about a list? All right. 10 reasons that the NHL, it would make no sense to have a lockout next year when the agreement is supposed to expire. They're going to extend it, and word has it they may very well extend it before we see hockey games again. And there's 10 good reasons to have it, and there are two small things that I think could derail it. So I'll put the two things that could potentially derail it over here because I think they'll work through them. But we're going to get into 10 reasons why there's going to be labor peace. There should be labor peace going forward. Now, the number two reason that it could kind of fall apart, the Olympics. Players want to have Olympic participation. The NHL kind of doesn't want to have that shutdown for a couple of weeks. I would think with compacted schedules over the next few years, that could also be an issue there too, where they say, hey, we're already trying to compact the schedule to bump things back so we can start in October again at some point, if they decide to go in that direction. And so the Olympics, that could be an issue right there, where players are like, we want to go, and the owners say no. And the number one thing that could keep things kind of tense is escrow. So escrow is, this season it was 14% taken off their paychecks that goes into a fund that they may never see, or they might. And with the ongoing situation we're living through, that number is going to go up next year. It's just a matter of how much. So with the salary cap likely staying static for this year coming up and the year after, how much more money is going to go into escrow? It could be a really large amount. And so players, before they sign off, may very well want some sort of assurances that they'll have an opportunity to go to the Olympics. There may be some wording in there where under this circumstance we don't, under this circumstance we do. See what they come up with. And escrow could be a huge one, where they want to know years in advance where the escrow is going to be, or owners may look for some kind of an assurance from players. Apparently, the idea of dropping a salary cap, which the NHL basically said they would prorate down everybody's salary, NHL players said no. So that was something that I thought would have to happen if the salary cap was going to drop, and apparently that was discussed, and the players said no. Because otherwise, a drop in the salary cap doesn't make any sense without compliance buyouts or dropping everybody's pay across the board. Because otherwise, you're just going to have teams that can't sign anybody. And then you're going to have a bunch of players who would be out there as free agents that nobody would be able to sign. So this would be putting players essentially out of work, which, again, the union wouldn't like. So 10 reasons why I think they get this done, they get the extension done, and why it makes perfect sense. Number 10... and these are in order of importance. The Rogers deal in Canada. They can't really afford to, right now, say, all right, we're going to go on into a lockout. Rogers is already ticked off at how this deal's worked out for them because they overvalued it. They spent too much money on the contract. So the fact that they're losing money, and Rogers is trying to save money every year by laying people off and bringing new people in that they can probably pay a lot less. And some of them, it's been, again, it looks short-sighted, or you could argue they were overpaying their on-air personalities. Whatever it was, Rogers is not going to look kindly on a lockout if it can be avoided. Number 9, and this one, you know what? I'm not going to do that one at 9. No, I'm not going to do that one at 9. Now this one, I'm going to put an asterisk on this one just for the people who skip to the end and go, what's he talking about right now? Asterisk because the escalating revenues are not accelerating and escalating right now. But they have jumped up every single year for the most part since the last lockout. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where those are going to drop while we're already seeing a drop. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you shoot yourself in the foot over a couple extra bucks here and there that the owners or players might have argued over. So because the revenues have been going up until the situation we're going through right now, I don't see any reason to lock people out. I don't see any reason for players to go on strike. At number 8, yeah, I'll put this one at number 8. I suppose it's going to be number 7. Public relations. Look, we as the public, we get tired of discussing this kind of thing. We get tired of having it in our sports. And it can alienate people. You look at what happened with baseball with all their lockouts. It alienated a lot of people. And now it's starting to look like baseball might be working towards a lockout or a strike again. So once their agreement's up, we'll see. But it really looks like there's some ugliness from the union and the owners towards one another. And once that mistrust is there, it gets bad, and then it leaks over into PR, and people publicly will take sides. Now, normally, when it comes to NHL lockouts, the players take the brunt of the blame, even though it's the owners doing the locking out. It's the owners that make billions, whereas the players make millions, but it's easier to criticize the players than the owners. Number 7. Yeah, I'll put this one at number 7. Just Arizona. Just going to write Arizona. Javier Gutierrez gets hired to be the new CEO for Arizona. And he believes in this market. He believes that fans are going to come out. He believes things are getting better. The absolute worst thing that could happen to the Coyotes, that organization, and that market would be a lockout. You're already trying to bring people in and up your revenues. And you know what? I'll go ahead. I'll put in here Florida, and I'll put in Carolina. Why? Because Carolina's finally getting some upward momentum. The team looks like they're being run really well. Fans are showing up. Everything's great. The building's really loud. A lockout would be the worst thing to happen. Florida, we know they have attendance issues. Being relevant locally, that's going to be a problem. And in markets across the states where they're trying to break in, they're trying to make things better, if you don't play, you're not relevant. So that's a problem right there. Even Canadian markets, at some point, fans go, whatever. And they just don't bother with it. So at number 6, yeah, I'll put this one at 6. This one I had at 9, and then I'm looking at it, I'm going, no, that's going to be more important than that, Shannon. Signing bonuses. Signing bonuses are paid even with a lockout. So you'll notice there's really, really heavy signing bonuses due this year. And that's because there may have been a lockout. And players were signing contracts with heavy signing bonuses for this year. So were the GMs. Which makes you think, why were the GMs doing that? Why were the owners signing off on that? Is it a way of saying we don't think there'll be a lockout? Or is it a way of pressuring the NHL not to have one? And then we'll see. But again, signing bonuses being as heavy as they are this year, and potentially going forward having signing bonuses be a huge part of the contracts all over the league, you have to pay those. So even if there's a lockout, you have to pay the signing bonuses. There's no way around it. Number 5. And I've been seeing a lot of questions about this. Seattle. Seattle is still on pace to come into the league next year. Seattle is still looking like their building's going to be ready for 2021. No problems. There were some hiccups when it comes to the construction, but they're still on pace to have it ready for next year. And really, there isn't anything to say that they shouldn't expand next year. I know what we're going through. We'll get to that. That is on this list. But Seattle, $650 million down, and they want a good team out of the gate. They're probably going to get one, and we'll see. But Seattle, you can't have a lockout. You can't have, here's the brand new Seattle team, and now a lockout, so you can't watch them. So yeah, Seattle is a pressure point, and that $650 million, that money coming into the NHL, and the idea of, we could always expand for another $1 billion, right? That's why when people say they need to stop at 32, I agree on some level, and yet, if somebody comes along and goes, I have $1 billion, do you want it? I'll take it. Thanks. Okay, and welcome to the NHL Topeka, Kansas. So yeah, that's the that's the kind of thing where like, hey, I have $1 billion. I never thought that it could work in the Antarctic, but I have 1 billion reasons to think it might. All right, number 4, and this is important, and we hear about this a lot. So next year the U.S. TV deal is up, and I've talked about this plenty regularly lately because it's important. And with the amount of time of hockey not being on the air for the last 3 months, and how important that is, that U.S. TV deal may end up not being quite as much money as they had hoped from ESPN or NBC or both. And so if you take the pause we've had, and then you add on a lockout of some sort, good luck getting a TV deal. So that's just throwing that in there as a point. And then number 3 is the pause. The pause is going to screw up scheduling. So I'll put scheduling in here as well. So the pause is going to push everything back. And when people say, just forget it, start next season on time. oh, we won't be in all 31 arenas by October. They know this, so they're pushing it back in part because of that. So the pause, and I think scheduling has a lot to do with it. Because again, if they decide they're going to try to get the season back on track and put it back to October through June, it's going to take some time. Now a lockout helps with that, right? Yeah, we just won't have one. But again, you're hurting yourself after you've already been hurt by the pause. And you're looking at a situation where there may not be fans in attendance, or even if they're there, not in full attendance for a long time. Number 2, and this is a big one. There's a feeling of cooperation between owners and players that we didn't have any of the previous times. There was no point over the last year where I said, oh, that's huge. Other than escrow, there wasn't anything I looked at and said, oh, that's going to be it. We're not going to have a season in 2020, 2021. What we're going through now, this pause, this was not something that was scripted into it years ago. So this is unrelated, but I think it does put pressure on them to remain cooperative. If anything, it forces them to be even more cooperative, which is probably part of the reason why we're looking at the NHL extending its CBA officially by as much as 3 or 4 years. Just kick the can down the road a little bit. I have no problem with that. It's well overdue. I'm tired of having lockouts and shutdowns every, 8 years. So I'm really glad we're not having that again. And at number 1 on the list for why we don't get any kind of lockout or shutdown, the owners are happy. The owners don't want anything right now other than let's keep it the way it is. 50-50 split, we're good with that. Salary cap seems to be working. Revenues going up. We got a new TV deal coming in. Yep. Canadian deal's pretty lucrative for us. Absolutely. And we've got some good PR right now. And we're into Vegas. We're going into Seattle. Let's just keep this thing rolling and see just how far we can go with it. The owners are happy. They're making a ton of money. The players are making a ton of money. There's no reason to shut things down. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.